Hello, and welcome to my webinar. I'm Paul Miller. I'm on the research team at Voltage, and I helped build Flow 2.0, and I want to just explain it to you and answer any questions you might have. I'm going to start out a little high level. I'm not sure, what everybody's familiarity with Lightning is. So I want to make sure that we're all on kind of the same page of what is liquidity right now in Lightning, how do we solve it, and then I'll go into Flow 2.0 of how we're hoping to improve the situation. So basically, when you fire up a Lightning node, it starts out with you don't have any money on it, right? You got to send some on-chain funds, some Bitcoin to your Lightning node. But even then, you don't have any inbound or outbound capacity. If you don't have any of your Bitcoin in a channel, you can't send anything and you can't receive anything. So let's say you put some Bitcoin on your node and then you open a channel to someone else, like async, for instance. Very, very popular node. So now you have some outbound. So that means you can send to other people on the Lightning Network, either directly to async or, it's a network, so you can do multi-hop payments. But you only have, like, these are, you can conceive of a Lightning channel as like abacus beads. All the beads are on your side. Oops. So you can only send. There's nothing on the other end of that channel to come in your direction. So all you can do is send right now. So once you do send, now you start to trend towards having what we'll call like a balanced channel that can both send and receive. So if I sent 20,000 sats to Alice over my async channel, now this channel is in a state where you have 80,000 more sats you can still send, but you also could receive up to 20,000 sats through this channel. We're just focusing on one channel right now, but obviously, Lightning node will have multiple channels on it potentially. And so your inbound and outbound liquidity are the sum of these channels. So a common move to improve the situation, especially if you're like a merchant, you definitely want to be able to receive money. That's kind of the important part for you. You can buy a channel from someone else on the network. So basically ask somebody, hey, open a channel to me. So all the abacus beads are on your side, and I have all of that liquidity available to me to receive. So they're locking up their funds typically to create this channel, and now you can receive up to whatever the size of that channel open is. I made my own graphics for this because I like to make my own graphics, but there's actually a really great explainer of all of this in the Bitcoin design guide on Lightning Liquidity. Look at all these personas, and yeah, we're using the bead metaphor, but we've got little icons, and they get pretty advanced. So like multi-hop payments, the whole network. So definitely recommend if this is something that you want to get a better feel for. And so you've got a balanced channel, you've got some inbound, you've got some outbound. You're a node runner. Good job. So you're winning at Lightning. And just a shout out, there are a few popular services. Voltage Flow is one service, a way to get inbound liquidity where you pay people to open channels for you. Amboss Magma is pretty popular right now. A lot of what I see is people begging for inbound liquidity on Twitter. Like, hey, I just fired up this node and I want to sell something, but I need some channels. So please open some channels to me. Here's my node pub key. So wouldn't it be cool if this wasn't what if everybody didn't have a part-time job managing their node liquidity? Can we automate this somehow? And there's obviously been a lot of, there's like some autopilot type things where a robot takes control of your node. There's been some attempted solutions, but one that I really like, is the Breez and Phoenix model. So these are mobile wallets, and you start out with zero liquidity, but you can start receiving right away. And the way it works is the user creates an invoice with there's both Breez and Phoenix have a node running on your phone. So you create this invoice with that node, and then you hand it to the Breez or Phoenix LSP. And what you get back is a wrapped invoice. They generate a new invoice based on your original invoice, and when that invoice is paid, a channel is opened to route that payment. So I think the best way to make sure we really comprehend this is a little demo. So I'm just going to show, this is Breez starting from 0, and I'm going to get some inbound liquidity and get paid, right? I'm not just channel managing. So I'm going to put in my amount. I'm not just managing my channels, I'm receiving money, which was the whole point of me getting this wallet. So if you see right here, it says a setup fee of 2,000 sats is applied to this invoice. So they're kind of hiding the detail here, but basically they're saying we're going to have to open a channel that's a little expensive on chain compared to a regular Lightning transaction, but you need on chain to make Lightning possible. So this is going to cost you a little bit, just letting you know. And it's, in this case, it's pretty much a flat fee, 2,000 sats. So keep Breez open until the payment is complete. All right, so I'm going to pop open Phoenix. I'm going to show you a little bit of my shoes and desk. Paste in that invoice and pay it. So all I did from Phoenix was just pay the Lightning invoice, right? And bam, that pops up on Breez as 8,000 sats. Now remember, I made that invoice for 10,000 sats. So they took that 2,000 sat fee was their channel open cost. But now these are sats. These are my outbound liquidity, and the channel that they open probably has more than this in like I could probably receive more. It doesn't make sense for them just to do a 10,000 sat channel. They probably made it larger than this, so I can now do some inbound transactions for the low typical Lightning fees instead of that 2,000 sat charge every time. So, but yeah, I started at 0, and now I'm ready to spend. I've received money, which was the whole point, and I did not have to think about channels. I had to think about the kind of the cost incurred when you start from 0, but I didn't have to think about channels at all. So what is Flow 2.0 then, you might ask? The user wants to get paid but doesn't have inbound. The user creates an invoice locally, gives it to their LSP, gets back a wrapped invoice. When the wrapped invoice is paid, a channel is opened to route that payment. I should have put here, it's a zero conf channel, in fact. So it works right away. You don't have to sit there waiting for confirmations. You're basically trusting that this LSP that you have some relationship with is not going to rug pull you during that confirmation phase. And after that, once the channel is confirmed, then it goes back to kind of the typical zero trust Lightning model. So yeah, it's the same idea. We just ripped off Breez and Phoenix. So yeah, Flow 2.0. We're Voltage is the LSP. The cool thing, and what's special and different about this, is that this is an open API. So any node implementation, any node can now have that same experience that has so far been mostly, the purview of these specific apps with this curated experience. And we also have a very simple API for developers to take advantage of this. And that's kind of the big, reason I'm talking today, is because I want to make sure people are aware that this service exists, and find out what they need from it. Do they need more features? Do they need it to be architected slightly differently? That kind of thing. So that but we want to be able to enable a Breez or Phoenix style experience for all sorts of things in the Bitcoin ecosystem that where it would be beneficial. And it's non-custodial. And I'll explain that a little bit, how that all works. It's, you know, it's non-custodial in the Breez and Phoenix example as well. So yeah, this is what the liquidity life is like. You create a 20,000 sat invoice, some magic happens in the cloud, and when that invoice is paid, you end up with this channel where you have everything you asked for as outbound, right? But then you also have some margin in that channel for future incoming payments, and you don't have to open a channel every time. All right, so I am going to do something that's incredibly terrifying to me and do a live demo of Flow 2.0. And, you know, this is on testnet. Testnet's kind of rough. So, you know, it might fail. And I want your grace for me if it fails. And I have a backup video in case it does. But anyways, so we have this this demo page where you can try out Flow 2.0 on testnet. And basically what you do is you paste in your invoice. And if your node isn't already connected to the voltage node, you know, before you open a channel, you need to be peered with a node. So if you're not already connected, which in this case I am connected, but if you're not, you can also put in the connection information for your node. But you throw in your invoice that you want to get a wrapped version of, and we'll give you this wrapped invoice. So let's give this a shot. And then, well, actually, let me explain how I set this up. In the demo, I just went right into it. So I'm using L&D. So we have some instructions, and this is where we go from very high level, here's how liquidity works, to like, hey, we have a solution, but that solution is kind of developer focused right now. We think this is going to help developers make this a very nice UX, but actually using Flow 2.0 directly is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world right now. So here is the scary config instructions for L&D. It's actually a lot easier with Core Lightning. If you have a Core Lightning node, you run this plugin that we built, and then you just whitelist our node. So zero comp, because you're trusting the node that's opening the channel to you, you don't want to just accept channel opens, zero comp channel opens from any random node on the network. So you need to have a way of vetting those. And the way you do it with Core Lightning is this plugin. It's very simple to get running. And most Core Lightning node runners are pretty familiar with this kind of, you know, adding another plugin for their specific use case. For L&D, which is what I'm using, it's a little more involved. You need to enable a couple flags in your settings, which are, I can show you here on my voltage node. I've got some channel settings, and I just turn these on, allow zero conf. And then to vet those incoming, hopefully L&D will eventually allow you, just as part of your settings, also add zero conf nodes to a whitelist or something like that. But for now, we need to run a utility, like basically a channel acceptor alongside our node to be able to accept these zero conf channels. So I'm going to pull this in. So this is our little Rust utility. Can't access app.voltage.com/flow/on-demand. Try to go to, you shouldn't actually even need to be logged in. Christian can't access the app.voltage.cloud. Wait, did you do app.voltage.cloud? Haha, thanks, Graham. All right, so I've got this webinar config. So basically, I have to talk to my node, right? So I've got my macaroon, my TLS cert. This is the URL of my node. And this is that node pub key that I'm saying I'm accepting zero conf channels from this pub key. All right, so it's app.voltage.cloud/flow/on-demand. You shouldn't actually even need a voltage account to be able to play with this. So I'm going to run this. All right, so I've started my channel acceptor. So now I'm going to hop over to my node, and you'll see, oops, oh no, to the dashboard timeout. Let's start up the dashboard. I don't know what I can kill time with while this is starting up. So yeah, so basically set up these options. This is actually a Rust program, so you got to have Rust and stuff. So there's a lot we can do to make this easier, but also we're not sure how much we want to drive towards making this easier. If L&D is just going to add this as like a whitelist option. And I got the TLS cert and the macaroon and the connect tab. I think they're also on here. Yeah, you can just get the admin macaroon, the TLS cert. Show you my seed. All right, let's see. All right. So let's log in to ThunderHub. All right, so you see we have a fresh node. Don't have any Bitcoin on here. Don't have any Lightning balance. Never gonna save that password. And we don't have any channels. We do have a peer. This is the peer with the voltage node, so that's why I don't have to type in that information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to receive. So let's say I want 10,000 sats. Hey, webinar. Okay, so I got this testnet Bitcoin invoice. So now I'm going to come on over here to the Flow 2.0 beta. All right. And so we now have a wrapped invoice. So this is what we want that person to pay. Our good friend that's about to give us 10,000 sats. And the important thing here is that the pre-image hash matches. Why that's important is because, you generated this invoice. You know the secret of the invoice. So you're the only person who can actually redeem these funds. So despite the fact that Voltage generated a new invoice, by checking that these hashes match, you have the certainty that Voltage actually can't take this money. So even though Voltage is going to have a payment come into the Voltage node, Voltage can't do anything with it other than pass it along to you. Nothing productive other than pass it to you, because you're the only one who can actually redeem that payment. So that's why it's safe. You can also see, so we have, so Breez, right, created a 10,000 sat invoice and then just took the fee out of that payment. We're actually adding the fee to the invoice amount. So there's sender pays fee and there's receiver pays fee. This is the sender pays fee setup, but that will potentially be configurable. And that's another place we really like feedback on what, for your use case, how would you like the fees to be dealt with? All right, so we checked that this is all good. So I'm going to grab this wrapped invoice and I'm going to head over to, it used to be my favorite testnet faucet. Nowadays, it feels like it's like the only testnet faucet that works at all. Let's see. Actually, let me try reloading. This is being a little funny today. All right, so there's the invoice. You see it's 12,500 sats. And let's send this payment. And if we look over here, it says accepting zeroconf channel. So this is why we needed to be running this program, to make sure that we allowed this zeroconf channel. And it says now we did allow this zeroconf channel, and the payment has gone through. And so now if we go over to ThunderHub and look at our channels, we should have a channel. Let's reload. There we go. So we have a channel for we basically have this minimum, like this 100,000 sat, then plus the 10,000 sats. So we have a balance of 10,000 sats on our side of the abacus, and there's another 100,000 sats to go. So, and we've received the money. We're good. That's not pending channel balance. That's channel balance. We have those sats right now. So it worked, and I'm very happy and proud of the work we've done here. Christian in the chat says commerce use cases are receiver pays fees. Most other use cases, the sender should pay the fees. And Alex says Lightning users are used to paying a few sats when sending money. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, and different wallets are making very different choices on who is eating the cost of Lightning fees. There's a video of me doing the demo, in case you missed it, or just want to watch it over and over again. So, I use this UI. This UI is really for demonstration purposes. I don't think it's really going to be the primary way people are going to use this. We really want this to be integrated and become invisible, because if the whole point is to make it easier to do Lightning, we're not going to ask people to run a Rust program to make Lightning easier. That's just kind of moving the complexity somewhere else. So ultimately, we want this integrated and become invisible, or maybe a switch you can flip, and now you get automated liquidity. And in case it wasn't obvious, this really does kind of automate from an edge. If you're not a routing node, if you're just an edge node on the network, this is enough to automate all of your liquidity, because every time if you don't have enough inbound liquidity to receive, a channel is opened, and then the funds are pushed through, and then all your balance is how many funds have been pushed through. So you always have enough, outbound liquidity matching your balance, obviously. So you're good to go. If you're an edge node, this solves liquidity for you. So anyways, yeah, so we've designed this to be very easy from a developer point of view. Like, this is literally the API I just called, and you can leave off the host and port like I did if your node is already connected. So all you're doing is just passing the Bolt 11 invoice that you want to have wrapped, and then you get back the wrapped invoice. That's all it is. It's very simple, and I'm sure we could add some configurability to this as we try to figure out what specific use cases and customizations people want. And yeah, so like I showed before, we have plugins. This should work with any node implementation. We're not extending the protocol or anything. These are all, we're just using zero-conf channels, and all we need these plugins for are to convince nodes that this is one of the zero-conf channels, or this is a node that they're okay with having zero-conf channels from. So yeah, we have the LND node channel acceptor. We have the Core Lightning plugin, and I'm working on the Mutiny Wallet team, and we are planning on using Flow 2.0 to make our wallet work out of the gate. So we're working in LDK, so we'll have a good example of an LDK integration soon, and it should work with any other node implementation that you can think of. So yeah, please test it out. Like we discovered in the chat, it's app.voltage.cloud/flow/on-demand. I mean, you can just go to /flow if you don't want to type that whole thing. The existing version of Flow still exists, and it's still useful for some use cases, but you can just head into the Flow 2.0 beta. And yeah, I want to credit our team. The voltage research team was Tony Giorgio, Carl Dong, and myself. And then, of course, the rest of the voltage team for deploying this, for communicating about it, for understanding it. There's a lot that went into it, and a lot of integration across the whole company. And yeah, so like I've been saying, I kind of have a call to action for you. Does this solve your use case? Is this easy enough to integrate into what you're building, or is this like the fact that you have to run a channel acceptor and you have an LND thing that's too hard for where you're at right now. What are ways we can improve it? What is your ideal fee model? That discussion's already happened in the chat a little bit. So yeah, just please hit us up and let us know how we can help. But we really want to talk to the community about the best way to go forward with this. I made this presentation based on a template, and there's a cool chart, so I just thought it'd be nice to have a chart in here. Yeah, so time for questions. Todd says, thanks, Paul. Nice. Thank God for Bitcoin. Christopher asks, when mainnet? I think that's a great question. So we have Graham in the chat. Oh, yeah, and he just dropped in his email, Graham at voltage.cloud. Graham, when mainnet? While Graham's typing, my guess is that it'd be nice if somebody integrated this on testnet to validate that it's going to work for them. But oh, Graham can't join via audio. That sure would be nice. Yeah, my guess is, Graham, you just type and I'll read anything you say, so it's on the video. But yeah, more testnet validation is ongoing. We just want to make sure that we have the model right, and there's nothing right now technically that it couldn't work on mainnet. And we're having a lot of successful channel opens on testnet, which is comforting. Means it's probably going to work even better on mainnet. But yeah, Graham says mainnet soon, no hard date. And yeah, we also have to make sure, Graham points out, that the abuse vectors are handled, especially because this is an open API right now. Some other voltage APIs are authenticated. Right now, this one is not. So it's kind of maximally open. But maybe that's something to investigate. But yeah, just make sure this can't be abused somehow, or somebody can't just siphon all our funds somehow. ATS, thanks for the presentation. I'm a bit newbie with Lightning, but who is the owner of the wrapped invoice? Well, if you take that wrapped invoice, let's wrap another invoice real quick. Let's see. Take that wrapped invoice and you go to Lightning decoder. No, there's another Lightning invoice decoder. I always forget the name of the one I use. Decode. There we go. This is actually, I'm not going to be able to read this, am I? But it looks like you're paying the voltage node, basically. So like Graham points out, the wrapped invoice comes with privacy improvements as well. The sender doesn't know the ultimate destination. So it looks to the sender like they're paying voltage. So like if your wallet pops up like the node ID of who you're sending to, it's going to say, hey, I'm about to send this to voltage, and so that's a kind of an interesting thing UX wise, but I don't think most wallets put that much weight on like the who you're sending to, obviously, because a lot of Lightning nodes are synonymous or whatever. But yeah, it looks like you're paying voltage, and then but the important thing, like I said before, is voltage doesn't know the secret of this invoice, and therefore can't actually receive the funds. They can get this payment pushed to them, but it's basically stuck in their node until in our node, in voltage's node, until we push it to the ultimate receiver. Sam asks, what happens if you already have enough liquidity for the payment? Does it always open up channels each time a wrapped invoice is paid? That's a great question. So it does not actually. So we could actually try this out. It does not actually. So yeah, so we have this new invoice. We have this new wrapped invoice, right, for another 10,000 sats. I think I'm still running my channel acceptor. So let's try to pay this real quick. More sats. And you see the fee right there is only 1 sat, and it just goes through. So what voltage does is it checks basically, do we have enough liquidity to the person that wants this invoice paid to them to just route this through a channel that we've already opened. And if we do, that means we don't have to open a channel. Great. We just wrap the invoice and add, right now, it's just like a flat 1 sat fee. And that's, that's another thing that we can tweak. Maybe our profit model will be to charge exorbitant fees for even routing. It's also something that you could theoretically, as an integrator of Flow, you could just use when you are low on inbound liquidity. You could only use the API then, so it would be more advanced, more custom integration. But instead of giving Voltage every invoice and having every invoice be wrapped, only when you're pretty sure you're going to need a new channel open, do you ask Voltage to wrap the invoice. Got some thumbs up. There aren't any questions in the chat right now, but somebody's typing, so I'm gonna give them a shot. Yeah, any more questions before we wrap up? I don't have any more slides. Again, I want to thank the fine folks that built this along with me. I did help. Would the future of RBF do anything to zero conf channels? I'll be honest, I'm not really an expert on that, but I believe the answer is no. I don't think RBF messes with the zero conf thing, because really you're trusting the person who's opening this channel to you for the time that channel is not open, and it's there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm really not the right person. Graham, maybe you can answer that. But I believe I've asked this something similar to somebody and been told no. But I can't really tell you all the reasons why. Graham says, no, not really. Zero conf will always still work. So we'll always have zero conf. Although it does become a little wilder, if you do open a zero conf channel with really low fees and it sits in the mempool for 2 years, or even using Bitcoin, who knows? Christian says, thank you. Alex is going to take a screenshot of that. There you go. Sam says, I guess they cannot double spend the funds since it is Voltage's funds. Right. Yeah. Graham says, explaining zero conf and mempool policies is hard in chat. Yeah, mempool is always like a good 15-minute debate at a BitDevs. John says, do we always have to pass the Bolt 11 invoice to the API? Could we just ask Voltage to do everything? Well, what do you mean by everything? I don't know if this is where you're getting at, but like one thought is, right, so I'm running this against a Voltage node, right? And I'm creating these invoices from a Voltage node. Why can't that just automatically use Flow 2.0 under the hood? And there's definitely a potential way to do that. It would be a little bit more of a lift. There's actually kind of a multiple different potential ways. Like John's saying, create the Bolt 11 and wrap it in one command. So like you could just have an authenticated API. As a Voltage, right? The whole reason that I have to do all this stuff outside of Voltage in this own app is, Voltage doesn't actually have a decrypted version of my admin macaroon. So Voltage actually is not typically in a position of commanding my node for me. But maybe you do feel comfortable giving Voltage your invoice macaroon, and potentially we could build something like that where there's just an API where you hit up your node instead of using the L&D APIs or anything. You just do your node /API/ give me an invoice, and it gives you a wrapped invoice or something like that. Yeah, Graham says, yes, that's possible, John. We don't have a single button for that today, but definitely something that could be built. And Sam says Thunderhub could integrate the voltage API. Smiley face. All right, keep believing, Sam. Yeah, Thunderhub has been great, but yeah, we probably have to make that change ourselves to Thunderhub. The other crazier idea is to just intercept the invoice creation API at the L&D level and do wrapped invoices right there. So you still use the same L&D API, but you're getting the wrapped invoices. But again, that is a pretty crazy way. Graham says, for example, we'll get this into BTC Pay server. And so, yeah, this would be awesome for the BTC Pay use case. If you're not familiar, Voltage has, you can create BTC Pay server instances. And I have too many nodes on here. And connect those to a voltage node. So if you had a switch that you could flip, like, hey, use Flow 2.0, that means, because this is a common thing that happens for new voltage users, is they hear they should get into Lightning. So like, okay, I'll start a node, and they start a node, and then they realize that there's more work to do, and then maybe they give up. So if they start the Lightning node and they start the BTC Pay server and flip the switch, if we get this integration going, they're good. Like, they can set up a store and never think about liquidity. Yeah, I think I interrupted Graham's paragraph halfway through reading it. Yeah, so the BTC Pay server would be the thing calling to our LSP API. So the merchant would never have to think about liquidity and doesn't have to know about the API either. BTC Pay software would handle that. So that would be a beautiful place to live in. It's definitely not only is it not impossible, but it is planned. Sam's typing. Give it, go to 3-4. We'll give it a few more minutes for questions. Sam says BTC Pay could handle adjusting the payment amount so the merchant ends up eating the fee. Yeah, exactly. So I could definitely imagine this being, let's start over. If we, looking at the API, this could just be a flag in this request, like, hey, I'll pay the fee, or somebody else pays the fee. Another thing we've discussed is potentially having this just charged to your voltage account. So if you're a business that doesn't mind, paying a fiat bill at the end of the month, or paying the bill in Bitcoin, but just paying a voltage bill at the end of the month, that's another potential way we could do this. So I'd be curious if people would find that preferable, and just totally hide the fee aspect from the users, which could, if you have a lot of users, could be expensive, but also is a nice UX. I think the other thing we've obviously noticed with a lot of Lightning wallets is users don't seem to be too concerned with fees, and a lot of times just seem happy to eat it. All right, let's do one more question if there are any. Yeah, Alex says sats are still cheap. Yeah. I think that's an interesting question. I think this works for our medium high fee environment. When we have crazy high fees and sats are $1 each, maybe this is not going to be the right way. Maybe real bespoke, tender liquidity management will be the way to go. But I think in our current stage of evolution of Bitcoin and the Lightning Network, I think this is a nice usability win for not, and the fees are not exorbitant, and they are commensurate with the activity that you're doing. You receive a little bit of sats, you get a little channel, and you can do some more receives. You receive a lot of sats, get a bigger channel, and you can do some more receives. So it's it's not going to be the perfect liquidity management, but I think it's going to be pretty close to actual use, and not just opening random channels hoping they get used, because they're getting used right at least right away, which was just pretty fun. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you to the Voltage team and to Carl and Tony for building this. Obviously, those guys are the galaxy brains behind a lot of this stuff and did a lot of research. And yeah, I'll see y'all later. See you on Noster.